Namaste everybody. Thank you for joining me today for our Thoughtful Thursday. Hope you're all doing well. This is my first Thoughtful Thursday for this year. So our little class today, we're going to be starting a little bit different today. Normally I do some guided meditation, but I just thought I'd start with a little bit of mellow kirtan, our group chanting of mantras. Then we'll have our wisdom talk. Today's wisdom talk will be a reading from the ancient Vedic text, the Sri Isopanisad, which has a lot of nice instructions and topic matter. And then we'll conclude our Thoughtful Thursday with a bit more kirtan. So the mantra we're going to use to start, this is a nice little mellow chant just to get us in a nice frame of mind, is Chaitanya. You may even like to repeat that after me if you're not familiar with it. Chaitanya, Nityananda, Gaur Hari. So it's Chaitanya, Nityananda, Gaur Hari. So the reason that we're doing this to start is to put our mind and body in the right consciousness, so that when we do hear transcendental knowledge, we're more grounded, we're a little bit more purified, and we're more likely to accept and understand it. Okay, so here we go. Chaitanya, Nityananda, Gaur Hari. Chaitanya, Nityananda, Gaur Hari. So it's your turn to respond now. Chaitanya, Nityananda, Gaur Hari. Chaitanya, Nityananda, Gaur Chaitanya, Nityananda, Gaur Hari. Chaitanya, Nityananda, Gaur Hari. Chaitanya, Nityananda, Gaur Hari. Chaitanya, Nityananda, Gaur Chaitanya Nityananda Gauri Chaitanya Nityananda Chaitanya Nityananda Gauri Chaitanya Nityananda chant together. Chaitanya Nityananda Gauri Chaitanya Nityananda Gauri. Keep going. Chaitanya Nityananda Gauri Chaitanya Nityananda Gauri. One more together. Chaitanya Nityananda Gauri Chaitanya Nityananda Gauri. So just keep our eyes closed for a moment there as that mantra continues to resonate within our body and mind. So before we move into our talk today, so the importance of hearing is, predominant in Vedic teachings that we immerse our mind in hearing transcendental sound and transcendental knowledge. This potent sound vibrations have a purifying effect in our mind and our consciousness. So we're continually surrounded by different sounds in the environment, noise from within and without, within our own minds. It has a very cluttering effect on our nature. So by hearing, we can actually transform our consciousness and our mind and live a life that's much more peaceful and beneficial. So that's why it's very important to have a daily, regular practice of meditation. It can help us to navigate. Navigate's a great word. Navigate through all these, ins and outs and ups and downs of life. So today's mantra is Mantra 10 from the Sri Isopanisad. Some of you may or may not heard of this particular text or scripture. Very wonderful, lots of very important instructions that can help us to maintain a better and higher standard of living. So before I speak, we always like to first offer our respects to our preceptors for those who've passed this knowledge on. This is not something that I personally have made up, created. I'm just attempting to try and pass it on without any personal interpretation. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Tinamine Bhajashri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gopaktarinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the Sri Isopanisad has 18 mantras. They're also called Pearls of Wisdom. And today I'd just like to read Mantra 10 and the purport and the instructions that are passed on here. So it states here, the wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of nescience. So within this purport or explanation, there's a number of different points that are made. So I'd like to read those. So in the purport it states, as advised in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, one should culture knowledge in the following way. So we often meet people who are studying and very much on a journey of gaining knowledge and gaining insight, which is a wonderful thing. We all like to be more knowledgeable. We like to have more information about how we can apply things into our life and have a better understanding. So, but the Vedic knowledge or the yoga texts contain a vast amount of knowledge that a lot of people haven't actually heard of or actually haven't tapped into yet. So this knowledge is very wonderful. And it's described as being the cream of all knowledge, or the essence of all knowledge. So I'll read on, and it'll give us some really nice instructions on knowledge and its application. So one should, there's 18 points here. So the first point states that one should himself become a perfect gentleman and learn to give proper respects to others. So we might look at some of these points a little bit more in depth. So, one of our spiritual teachers has described it, there's not very many gentlemen left in this world. That this place is probably not even fit for a gentleman. So this can be cultivated. This is part of our spiritual approach as well, to be offering respects to others, no matter what their particular background, how they present themselves. That a person on a spiritual path should be a perfect gentleman and offer respects to everyone. Okay, the second point here states that one should not pose himself as a religionist simply for name and fame. It's very common today that people are very much into self-promotion. They like to promote that they're very advanced in one particular field, or they're advanced in a particular way. But in the Vedic text it describes that we should actually be trying to cultivate humility. Humility is a very wonderful quality. When we do meet someone who is actually an embodiment of real humility, we're very attracted to them, their simplicity. So this is important here, that we shouldn't try and become advanced in spiritual knowledge just so that people will respect us, so that they will think highly of us. That's definitely not the point that we're looking for. So we should simply developing spiritually, because it's actually our true nature. The third one states that one should not become a source of anxiety to others by the actions of his body, by the thoughts of his mind, or by his words. So this is also probably looking at the term violence. Violence doesn't mean just harming someone in a physical way. Violence actually means putting all living entities in some sort of anxiety or distress. So we should not become a source of this anxiety with our actions, with our thoughts. Often our mind can be cluttered with negative thoughts or judgments of other people. And then if our mind is cluttered with these thoughts, it can come out in our words. So we should be gentle towards people with our actions, our thoughts, and our words. One thing that will also help with that is if we're more introspective about ourselves. We're less likely to be a distress to others. We should be working on our own faults, not thinking about others. The fourth point here states that one should learn forbearance, even in the face of provocation from others. So there's many things in life that will test us. There's many things that we may personally find that make us uncomfortable. We often hear people, I don't like this, or I don't like that, or why do you do this, or why do you do that? So we should learn to be tolerant to other things. Tolerance is such an important quality that we can try and cultivate. Just turning the cheek, not being so bothered by little things. We should just move on. So even if one is enticed to provocation, we should turn a cheek to that and not be drawn to it. The fifth point that's made here is one should learn to avoid duplicity in dealings with others. So we should be honest, but honest in a palatable way. Dealings should be very straight and honest. The sixth, so some of these points that may be made may be general, and some of them actually a little bit more specific in relation to our path of self-realization. So the sixth is that one should search out a bona fide spiritual teacher who can lead him gradually to the stage of spiritual understanding. So this important point here that's made is that we can be gradually led. So our path of spiritual understanding is a gradual path. It's a gradual journey. It's very difficult to become advanced quickly. Often if we follow along in our own way, we stumble and make mistakes. So as with all paths in life, whether you're studying medicine or music, literature, that we need to have someone who can guide us. Like our parents. Our parents are like our guides to us as well. So the spiritual path is also like that. We do need help. We do need people to guide us. And like in all fields, there are people who are bona fide and there are people who are not. So it's the same with our spiritual journey. We should seek out a person who is bona fide and try and listen and hear. And what we're hearing, we can also question and try and understand it. Try and understand it on a deeper level. So questioning means to take what you're hearing to a deeper level to understand it. It's an important part of Vedic or yoga teachings. So it also states here that we should try and render some service or to ask relevant questions. So questioning is very important. We shouldn't just accept things blindly or refute things the other way. We should try and ask questions and understand them deeper. So it states here, number 7, in order to approach the platform of understanding, we should try and live our lives in a regulated way. So it's like, I guess it's sort of like an athlete. Athletes are good examples of people who are able to regulate their lives. They are regulated in their training, they're regulated in their rest, they're regulated in their diet. So they live a regulated lifestyle, or in a way that actually helps to promote, they're moving toward their goal. So spiritual life is also like that. If we can become a little bit more regulated with our practices. For example, we like to encourage people in the morning to try and, when they rise up, to maybe engage in some meditation. So it helps to regulate your mind. And then during the day at a particular time, maybe at the end of the day after work, if you find that your mind's very restless, you've been engaged in all sorts of activities, maybe a little bit unsettled, that you can then also engage in some meditation at the end of your day. So the regulation means to also regulate our senses. So for some people that may seem like a foreign message. People might think, well, why do I need to regulate my senses? It's very important that I gratify them. But a part of advancing spiritually is to put some barriers on our senses. And in the yoga text, it's described that our senses, if they're not restrained, can be like wild serpents or wild horses as well. So by practicing meditation, it helps to regulate our senses and regulate our mind. And our mind and our senses are less agitated. So this is something that we can try and implement to help us approach or advance on a platform of self-realization. And in regard to that, try and be aware of certain practices that may be not helping you to promote your spiritual awareness. For example, up late at night doing certain activities, or eating certain foods, or engaging in certain types of practices will agitate your mind. That's what it's meant here. So certain practices will help you to have a calmer mind, and certain practices will agitate your mind. So one of the things that for example, is gambling. Gambling's a very addictive habit, a very addictive activity. And when you're gambling, you're always thinking about certain outcomes. You're also thinking about certain ways that maybe you can attain money to engage in gambling. And then once you've engaged in the activity of gambling, you're never satisfied by it. So creates this cycle. So one of the things that we may suggest to people, this is just an example as well of gambling, to try and maybe move that habit out of your life. Engage in more simplistic activities that won't agitate your mind. So that's what it's meant here by becoming more regulated. Okay, so number 10. One should not accept more than he requires for the maintenance of the body. So we've all heard the truth that we're not the body, and we're not the mind, and we understand that. But we also should understand that the body is an important vehicle. That we should, we look after it. We need to clean it well. We need to keep it fed and keep it maintained so it's healthy. But we shouldn't over-endeavour with that. We shouldn't see that the goal of life is to simply, get that body working as optimally as possible. We know it's going to age, and it can age gracefully. So we should only accept things that are required for the maintenance of the body. Our body actually doesn't need that much. Generally, most of the issues that we have, most of the issues that we tend to have with our body are just from overindulgence. We overindulge, we eat too much, we sleep too much. Okay, so number 11, it's sort of linked to number 10. So it states, 1 should not falsely identify himself with the gross material body, or consider those who are related to his body to be his own. So again, we tend to identify the body falsely with the self, but we tend to also think that we own other people, or other people belong to us, or we own them. So spiritual life, is about gaining knowledge and wisdom and an awareness of our position. And what's important here to understand is that we are of an eternal nature. That, yes, we are related to people by body, by birth, but also we actually are all eternally related. We actually are all brothers and sisters in the truest sense. So if we falsely identify with the body, we miss that point. By cultivating true spiritual knowledge, we can see a deeper connection between ourselves and others. That's what's talked about here. So I'll just jump ahead a couple little here. So to 13, one should not be attached to more than the necessities of life require for spiritual advancement. I'll read that again. So one should not be attached to more than the necessities of life required for spiritual advancement. So again, it sort of talks about in the first mantra here of the Sri Isopanisad, which I'll find for you, it's very much connected to that. So it states here, everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So it describes here that we have been allotted a certain amount of things, and that there's a certain quota that we're given. And we should accept those things, but also in the grander picture, the grander scale of things, we should know and understand that actually who everything belongs to. That we are not the proprietor of everything. We are just simply like caretakers. And we should accept only those things that are required for our spiritual advancement. The wonderful thing that I've become aware of while following this path is you're never going to be without. Your material needs seem to always be met. This doesn't mean that we don't go through difficulties in periods in life, but you'll always have food, you'll have shelter, you'll have good friendship. Those necessities in life will always be met. So number 15 is very nice. I like this one a lot. One should not be happy or distressed over desirables and undesirables created by the mind. I'll read that again. One should not be happy or distressed over desirables and undesirables created by the mind. So our mind has this, very fickle way of creating things. It's constantly doing it, even at night when you're asleep. All the desirables that I like, I don't like. This is, favourable to me. This is unfavourable to me. We also do that with people. This person is favourable to me. This person is unfavourable to me. But all these desirables and undesirables are created by the mind and not actually something that I've created. So we should understand that we should not be distressed about them all. That the mind will have its way. It'll do its thing, but we should also try and disconnect ourselves from our mind. And try and train our mind to be our friend. Train our mind to understand that there's a greater purpose. And the practice of meditation is how we can do that. So I know that when I didn't practice meditation, and every time my mind urged or said something to do this or I don't like that, we follow it. We follow the urges of the mind very strongly. But the more I've been able to practice meditation, you can understand the chattering or the urges of the mind or all of the concoctions of the mind. You can understand that they're not me, and that I don't need to follow them. I don't need to submit to them, that they will pass. And also through the path of meditation, you have a greater knowledge and a greater understanding of your mind and how it works. And you can also take a step back from your mind. So when you're having difficulties with your mind, and we all do at certain times, we can withdraw from it. And instead of being engaged in it or fighting it or trying to change it in some sort of battle, you can take time out from it and actually engage in the practice of meditation, which is what's advised by great saintly people. So the last one I'll go to here. One should become a scientist or philosopher and conduct research into spiritual knowledge, recognizing that spiritual knowledge is permanent, whereas material knowledge ends with the death of the body. So our cultivation of spiritual knowledge is very important. You know, a lot of people are putting a lot of time into study and gaining knowledge. You know, I've met certain people with a number of different degrees and in different fields, but this material knowledge that we gain is also very temporary, as is the body. The body is temporary. So we will lose that knowledge that we've fought for or gained throughout our life. We're not saying there's anything wrong with gaining knowledge at all in different fields. It can be actually used to help you to spiritually advance. But the cultivation of spiritual knowledge is far greater. And at the point of leaving this body, all of our spiritual knowledge will be taken with us. So whatever spiritual advancement, whatever spiritual knowledge we've cultivated will be taken with us to our next destination. Whereas everything that we've tried to cultivate in this life, everything that we've, all the knowledge we've acquired will be lost. Like people learn different languages. People are very proficient in a number of different languages. I met some people who've got amazing linguistic skills. You can't take that with you. Mathematics skills. So the point being made here that we should try and advance our consciousness spiritually. We should try and cultivate true wisdom and true knowledge. And then that can be a springboard to greater advancement. So I hope these instructions have been valuable. I know that it may be good to go back over those a few times and try and remember them, or maybe write some down, or even just one or two of them, and try and implement them into our daily life. So we're going to move into a little bit more kirtan practice here to finish off. So I'm going to be using the mantra today, the Maha Mantra, which is also called the Hare Krishna mantra. So I'll chant that through for you, and then you can respond with the mantra. So to keep the practice very simple and very focused, if you find that your mind starts drifting away onto other things, which is the nature of your mind, it likes to wander, bring it back to the sound. So there's a second part to this tune in which we'll use the mantras Chaitanya and Nityananda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Your turn. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Chaitanya, 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 Nityananda, 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 Chaitanya, 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 Chaitanya. So just before we finish, just bring your focus back to your breath. Take a couple of nice breaths in. So I'd like to thank you for joining today from this Thoughtful Thursday. And we'll see you very soon. Namaste. Thank you very much.